Okay, so we're in for a wild ride today, and I mean a wild ride. The main character of today's anime went from this to this. That's right, we're cruising right along in today's video with a recap of Odd Taxi. It's a series you may not have heard of, and at first glance you might believe it's eerily familiar to Nintendo's hit franchise Animal Crossing. Well, you couldn't be more wrong. This unsuspecting anime goes harsher and darker than you could ever imagine. Yeah, I'm super excited for this one, so without further ado, let's jump into it. The first episode, The Eccentric Driver, opens with someone throwing a body bag into the ocean. Cement blocks hold down the bag, forcing whoever's hidden within to sink to the ocean floor. Then, we get the first look at our main character, Otokawa, and he's not your average anime protagonist. Talk about a cold open. I felt like I was watching the beginning of a Sherlock Holmes film. So, Otokawa wakes up from the nightmare of someone getting dumped in the ocean. We find him in his taxi, where the radio mentions a high school girl who had gone missing. Otokawa changes the channel to a comedy podcast hosted by a duo called the Homo Sapiens, who announce that they have passed the first round of the N1 Grand Prix preliminaries. A wild boar and one of the Homo Sapiens, Kensuke Shibagaki, complains over the podcast about the judges eliminating him and his partner, a horse named Atsuya Baba, from the second round the year prior. Shibagaki seems like he's prone to blowing hot air, something that could take him far as a talk show host, but not as a comic. Baba knows a meltdown from his co-host is imminent, so he saves face by introducing Mystery Kiss, an up-and-coming musical group that debuted live with their new single. As Otokawa drives through Tokyo, we get a glance at this animal-dominated world. Otokawa picks up his first passenger, segueing the story from the news on the radio to our main character's everyday life. He meets a college-aged hippo named Kabasawa, hooked on the internet and the way it grants specific people instant fame. Kabasawa goes on about how much he wants to become well-known, explaining that all of his friends have made viral or trending posts. During their time together, they're stopped by a pair of police officers whom Otokawa is already familiar with, the Diamond Brothers. They ask Otokawa if he's familiar with Dobu, a known criminal. Although Otokawa denies it, he hints that the eldest brother, Kenshiro, has a corrupt working relationship with Dobu. Later, after checking his phone, Otokawa realizes that Dobu is in the background of the selfie he took with Kabasawa. We then get the chance to see Otokawa off-duty, but it's very off-putting. It's heavily implied he's keeping someone in his apartment, as he's speaking to someone that we can't see. He tells them that they're not being held hostage and can leave at any time, as he won't keep them there against their will. Whoever they are, they've made his closet into a refuge, hidden in the dark and out of sight. My original theory was that he had that missing high school girl in his closet. What do you think? Moving on, Otokawa visits his primary doctor and friend, an ape named Goriki. Shirakawa, a lovely alpaca and nurse at the clinic, can't stand their friendly bickering. She gifts Otokawa a unique eraser of a celebrity named Donraku Shofute. And once Otokawa receives his prescription for sleeping aids, he finds the older Daimon brother waiting outside his taxi to confiscate his dashcam footage. Daimon claims it has to do with the missing girl, and if Otokawa doesn't keep quiet, it will be his life on the line. It seems as if Otokawa is having a long day, and I made sure to note that. Anyway, after all that, Otokawa goes to Taiko's tavern to meet his longtime friend Kakihana, who spends his spare time using dating apps in search of a wife. Goriki joins them, and they talk about Dobu, whom they believe is wanted due to his violent outburst. Allegedly, he once took down an entire gang by himself. Their night of gossip comes to a screeching halt when Goriki receives a call reporting missing medicine. The nurse, Shirakawa, is a primary suspect. Unaware of this, Otokawa finds himself driving her home, where she claims to enjoy his company. They're unaware of a malicious Dobu watching them from a distance, receiving a copy of Otokawa's dashcam footage on his phone. The next episode, How to Spend a Long Night, starts with Otokawa and Kakihana at the sauna. Otokawa mentions he exchanged numbers with Shirakawa, and although he's deadpan like usual, there's a touch of smugness in his tone. Even walruses and possible kidnappers like winning over the girl of their dreams. Shirakawa's definitely serious, as she wants to go on lunch or dinner dates with Otokawa when she has time off. Otokawa walks Kakihana through the fateful night. He's driving Shirakawa home as the Homo sapiens play on the radio. It's the same old bit, with a fan attempting to give them helpful criticism that leaves Shibagaki fuming. Shirakawa interrupts the podcast by striking up a conversation with Otokawa, and we learn that his parents left him as an orphan when he was still attending elementary school. An orphan protagonist. Stereotypical, but still evidence. Then, Shirakawa admits that she regrets going into debt for nursing school, as she didn't want to rely on her parents. Although she has paid off her student loans, it seems that doing so came with a heavy price. She also admits her desire to have a family, and when Otokawa asks if there's someone she likes, she hands him her phone, pointing the camera directly at him. How cute. I do love romantic subplots when a murder and medical malpractice are happening behind the scenes. Back at the sauna, Kakihana can't believe his ears and tries to give Otokawa advice for upcoming dates, but as someone with bad luck when it comes to romance, he's quickly turned down. Fortunately, his luck's turning around as he matches with the calico member of Mystery Kiss, Shiho. We cut back to Kabasawa, who tries and fails to become viral after his selfie with Otokawa gives him some traction online. When reviewing the post, he resolves to try harder, which is the first nail in the coffin for his life falling apart. We then meet another character, Rui, the lead singer of Mystery Kiss, who's finishing a meet and greet with fans. The prime poodle is all charm when she crosses paths with a longtime fan, Imai. Imai suggests that the other group members, Shiho and Yuki, should take off the masks they wear during the performances to gain more traction. Oddly enough, that's not possible, as the masks are a condition of Mystery Kiss working with their manager, Yamamoto, and his superiors. After the meet and greet, Yamamoto sends the masked singers to sell their remaining merchandise on the streets, while he has a meet with Rui. Their conversation is interrupted by his superior, who wants Yamamoto to find a particular taxi driver, surely Otokawa. The series is all about coincidence and being in the right place at the right time. So of course, Otokawa picks up Imai from the meet and greet. Imai convinces Otokawa to give him a reduced fare because he spent his money on lottery tickets. He dreams of buying Mystery Kiss's CD when it releases, so he needs to win big. He tells Otokawa to give him numbers for the next lottery poll, and Otokawa chooses random numbers from the sauna's changing room. As always, the Homo sapiens are Otokawa's constant companions, warding away the lonely nights. Literally, in this case, as they catch a ride in the taxi. They talk about their personal lives, with Baba wanting to spend more time with his girlfriend and play a mobile game called Zuden to connect with his fans. No detail in this series is inconsequential. I hope you're jotting this down too, because Zuden does come back up later in the most unsuspecting of subplots. Shibagaki wants to practice more, and after revealing he's a longtime fan, Otokawa points out that the duo's not equally committed to their comedy. Their conversation is interrupted by their manager calling Baba, offering him a position on a daytime food show. As they leave, another passenger enters the cab, and Dobu trains a gun on Otokawa, right as he receives a message from Shirakawa, who plans to wait for him at the park. Beware of borrowed plumes keeps us on the edge of our seats by opening in the sauna with Kakihana. Kakihana overhears a phone conversation between Dobu and his employer, Kuroda. Dobu's instructed to get as much information from Otokawa as possible because the case of the missing girl has been withdrawn now that a note came to light claiming she ran away. Kuroda wants Dobu to find the missing girl, as she's the daughter of Dawn, one of his former classmates and friends. The matter is personal. Dobu tries to convince Otokawa to help him because the dashcam footage shows the missing girl in the taxi the night she goes missing. He admits to working with the older Daimon brother and explains that one of his associates and junior, Yano, may be behind the girl's disappearance. Yano had it out for him, doing everything he could to ruin Dobu's reputation and bring in more money for Kuroda. Why? Well, because Kuroda runs a tight ship, with Yano and Dobu competing to be the best within his criminal organization, pitting them against each other in a deadly rivalry. Yano wants to pin the girl's disappearance on Dobu, so to prove his innocence, he needs to work with Kuroda, knowing that Yano is out to expose his schemes. Otokawa refuses to help this criminal, earning himself a gun to the face. Fortunately, he's got sleight of hand on his side, using a panic button to let the outside world know that he needs help. Unfortunately, the older Daimon brother answered his distress signal, allowing Dobu to continue holding Otokawa hostage. Seriously, talk about a corrupt justice system. We then receive a brief flashback of Kenshiro and his little brother when they were children. As it turns out, their parents were victims of a hit and run, leaving both of them orphaned at a young age, the tragic event left Kaneshiro with a hatred for taxi drivers, and his little brother with an insatiable hunger for justice. Regardless, Otokawa has no choice but to play along when Dobu threatens Shirakawa's safety, sworn to secrecy. Otokawa can't tell anyone about his encounter, his new alliance, or the dashcam footage. When Dobu leaves, he goes to a nearby park to bury his gun. Despite having his life threatened by a member of a crime syndicate, Otokawa wastes no time racing towards his meeting place with Shirakawa. He nearly hits a new character, Tanaka, with his reckless driving, causing him to drop his phone into a nearby sewer drain. Put a pin on this one in the murder board that you're undoubtedly making as we go along. We'll come back to him later. At the park of their first official date, Otokawa and Shirakawa watch the sunrise from a bench. Eased by the other one's company, they clearly want their budding relationship to mean something more. Luckily, Otokawa isn't the selfish type and admits he's involved with criminals who might endanger his life. Shirakawa doesn't seem to mind though, showing off her unique capoeira skills. She can handle herself and knows it too. And come on, Otokawa, the more the merrier, I say. There's plenty of room in that taxi of yours for an accomplice to the crimes you're about to commit. Otokawa doesn't share my love of grand declarations, but he does offer to drive Shirakawa to work. Across town, Baba's also living the dream as he starts working on the food segment, What's for Lunch. Otokawa returns to Taiko's tavern, where he tells Kakihana that he's fallen for Shirakawa. Kakihana misses their time in high school, but starts to gloat about his recent messages with Shiho. You know, one of the up-and-coming idols in Mystery Kiss. Otokawa finds their connection suspicious, only to discover Kakihana lying on his profile. Yet, he chooses to keep the scheme a secret on his friend's behalf. Back at the clinic, Shirakawa realizes Koriki's sudden absence, and Kakihana goes to meet Shiho in person. You couldn't guess the role Tanaka has in this narrative, but on the 4th episode, Tanaka's Revolution is a roller coaster from beginning to end. I said to put a pin in it, but now it's time to dial it back and figure out who the hell Otokawa almost ran over in the name of love. So we open with a scene of Tanaka racing down the sidewalk looking disheveled and panicked as bystanders call out an alarm. He begins a narrative about his history, starting in his grade school, where teachers tried to bridge the economic gap. The students had to be as uniform as possible, but that didn't apply to their stationery, allowing for popularity to surge surrounding unique erasers. As Tanaka lacked the other traits to make him popular, he went all in on eraser trade, only to fall short to one of his classmates, Sato. Sato constantly received new erasers from his wealthy parents' travels, while Tanaka only had a single dodo bird. His love for birds grew after his father bought him a cockatiel as a pet, a cheap gift compared to the gaming computers and hardware his older brother received. As Maru, the cockatiel, remained his only friend, Tanaka became desperate to prove his worth, leading him to find an online listing of a one-of-a-kind Donraku Shofute eraser by user Ditch11. Tanaka steals his father's credit card and registers an account on the bidding site, getting into a bidding war with an anonymous user that ends up with him spending 100,000 on the single eraser. He wins the bid, enduring months of waiting, only for it to never arrive. The site had a no return or refunds policy, so when his father realized his mistake, Tanaka experienced an incredibly harsh beating. 20 years later, Tanaka has a problem. He no longer lives with his parents and has a new job where he provides feedback to gaming developers. As an anime fan, you might be thinking, this job sounds like a dream. That's how it started for Tanaka, until he found Zuden, a game he played for free before his competitive spirit from his childhood returned. He threw millions into the game to grow his rank and spawn one of the rarest animals, the dodo. The trigger for his obsession? The discovery that Zuden's top player was none other than Ditch11. It's like a ghost from his past had come back to haunt him. The night Tanaka finally won the dodo, a taxi came out of nowhere, nearly plowing him over, causing him to drop his phone into the sewer drain. When he loaded into the game from his repaired phone, the dodo was gone, putting him right back where he started. If that wasn't enough, Tanaka returns home to find his beloved cockatiel dead. He takes Maru to the park to bury him beneath a tree, where he finds Dobu's discarded gun. He walks for 3 days with no destination or plan, ultimately running into Shibagaki, who tries to encourage Tanaka, but Tanaka misunderstands, assuming his infamous dodo bird is now bad luck. He realizes that the dodo was only a fleeting pleasure that could never give him true satisfaction. Yet, the tangible gun in his hands could allow him to get revenge on the people he blamed for his current circumstances, which puts him on the hunt for Otokawa, the taxi driver who unknowingly ruined everything for him. This is starting to get interesting. The next episode, Don't Call Me an Idol takes us back to a day in the life of Otokawa, who picks up the manager of Mystery Kiss, Yamamoto. They drive through the city to pick up 3 idols, starting with the gray cat Yuki. She complains about the special treatment Rui receives, but Yamamoto reminds her that she must work hard to keep the promise she made to her mother and to make up for lost time, as she's the newest girl in the group. They then move on to pick up Shiho from a bathhouse. Otokawa finds it odd that the musical group lives separately, but Yamamoto assures him it's for the best, without elaborating on why. What's even worse, Otokawa recognizes Shiho, but can't place her face. Of course, we know she's the new apple of his best friend's eye. Shiho isn't happy in the business, believing she lacks beauty and ambition compared to her fellow idols. She also hates dating to keep her place in the group, but Yamamoto shuts her down before she can vent her frustrations. Instead, Otokawa wants to know why Yamamoto doesn't promote Rui as a lone talent given her popularity. The answers are simple and sleazy. Yamamoto is using other girls as props to make Rui look better in comparison. Yamamoto takes Otokawa's business card and leaves a flyer in the back seat for him to promote Mystery Kiss. Otokawa wants to know if they've ever worked with someone else who looks like Yuki, claiming he had dropped off another young woman at the talent agency a few weeks before. His story prompts Yamamoto to check his business card. Shocker, the unsuspecting taxi driver with a suspicious amount of questions is the exact person Yamamoto's boss wanted him to find. He notices the camera on Otokawa's dash and offers to buy the dashcam footage, claiming it's for an upcoming music video, but Otokawa holds out, pretending to consider his offer. As he leaves the talent agency, he's unaware of Tanaka following him or the burner phone placed in the taxi. Later on, Otokawa meets with Guriki, who plans to close his clinic to avoid reporting the missing medication to the authorities. Otokawa suspects Shirakawa due to her past financial loans and potential relationship with Dobu. When Guriki doubts his intuition, Otokawa goes straight to the source, asking Dobu if he has any connections with Shirakawa the next time they meet. Dobu confirms that he's been selling Shirakawa's stolen medicine on the black market, as he was the one who paid her tuition years ago. Outside of work with Shirakawa, Dobu's criminal career is on thin ice, as someone had posted a video online threatening to expose him. With his livelihood on the line, Dobu must depend on Otokawa's cooperation to change his luck. He forces information out of Otokawa by threatening to drown him. Otokawa folds immediately, admitting he met the manager of Mystery Kiss, who wanted to buy the taxi's dashcam footage. Meanwhile, things are looking up for the lonely-hearted bachelor Kakihana, who has finally earned himself a date with Shiho. They're together at a fancy restaurant, and despite making a fool of himself, with her eyes glued to her phone the entire time, he seems to think it's going well. Shiho is only interested in the money, and Kakihana has it in bills, which is the first sign that he has gotten involved in something he shouldn't have. He drops a loan receipt, revealing he's borrowed a significant sum of money to pretend he's living his best life. Others are having better luck than he is, with Kabasawa going viral with a video promising to hunt down Dobu for his crimes, and Imai winning the lottery with the random numbers Otokawa gave him. Let Me Hear You Say, What the Hell is a fitting title for an episode of Odd Taxi. With so many subplots happening, it's hard to keep them straight, but someone winning the lottery is impossible to forget. Imai knows how fortunate he is, and after receiving the good news, he rushes to find Otokawa's taxi to thank him in person. He offers to pay for anything Otokawa wants or needs, and although Otokawa briefly considers paying Shirakawa's debt to Dobu, he declines the offer, refusing to leave Otokawa empty-handed. Imai makes him an honored guest at his work, the White Dolphin Cabaret Club. Otokawa is uncomfortable with the VIP treatment and makes a hasty exit to the nearest bathroom, while he narrowly escapes his night on the town. We get a brief glimpse at Kakihana looking for an engagement ring. Hey, the heart wants what it wants, but if only Shiho had agreed. Back in the cabaret's bathroom, Otokawa skims through missed messages from Shirakawa. After learning about her relationship with Dobu and her scheme to steal medicine, he put distance between them, asking her to leave him alone. He might have caved and answered one of her texts if it wasn't for Tanaka arriving on the scene and firing a warning shot into the air. Dressed in a Halloween mask, he appeared like death incarnate, prepared to deliver retribution to the man who wronged him. The cabaret's visitors rush from the venue in a panic, but some employees, including the part-timer driver, Shibagaki, tried to stop Tanaka, only to have a shot fired near his head. Imai rushes into the bathroom, telling Otokawa of a back door down the hall where he can make his escape. Otokawa makes a run for it, with Tanaka close behind. In the end, Otokawa uses his taxi for a quick escape, despite obvious signs of someone breaking in. Our man can't catch a break, as Shirakawa waits for him at his home. She demands to speak to him, and not wanting her to come inside, they settle on a nearby park. Shirakawa admits she dated Dobu for 4 years, and it was his idea that she get close to Otokawa because he wanted him to be his getaway driver after robbing a bank. Shirakawa wants to admit her crimes to the police, but Otokawa convinces her to leave the matter to Guriki before officially ending their relationship. Everyone's dealing with the fallout of the cabaret shooting. Tanaka may not have hurt anyone, but the incident had the locals rattled. On the radio, Shibagaki recounts being one of the survivors. Unfortunately, his brush with death isn't enough to win him fame, as after their radio show, Baba is the one surrounded by fans. Kabasawa uploads a video of the shooting and frames Dobu. Dobu later meets with Otokawa after reviewing the video. They make a deal to help one another. Dobu will stop Tanaka on Halloween, while Otokawa will go to Kabasawa's campus and convince him to stop uploading his damaging videos. Otokawa only agrees to this alliance if Dobu promises to free Shirakawa from her debts. Otokawa's love life may be on the rocks, but Baba's sure isn't. We learn he's dating Rui. That's right, the lead singer of Mystery Kiss. Baba's producer wants him to drop Shibagaki and host a New Year's program instead, but he lacks the ambition his girlfriend has to reach the top and refuses to miss the N1 Grand Prix. Rui admires his lack of ambition and his disinterest in fame, but with Mystery Kiss's album releasing on Christmas and a concert shortly after, the couple only has time for a quick embrace before Yamamoto drags her back to practice. Baba, meanwhile, has to turn down Shibagaki's hopes to practice because he's busy. Next up is Trick or Treat, which takes us to Kabasawa's university, where Otokawa learns that the outspoken hippo is all talk, as he lives off campus in fear of Dobu tracking him down. His popularity isn't stellar among his fellow students, as they criticize him for his radical outlook and views. Forced to return home empty-handed, Otokawa's night takes a dark turn when he finds his home desecrated by a stray bullet, assumedly left behind by his skull-masked attacker. Unlike last time, he files a report with the police, going to the station where he tells Koshiro Daimon, the younger one, about the attack. He seizes the chance to speak with Koshiro alone, urging him to investigate without his corrupt older brother. As Koshiro investigates Otokawa's home, they discuss Koshiro's desire to eradicate evil and its roots in the loss of his parents, like many cliché anime protagonists before him. Otokawa then rips the band-aid off, boldly claiming that Dobu and Kenshiro work together. Otokawa then tells Koshiro everything about Yano, his alliance with Dobu, and their plans for Halloween night. His honesty earns Koshiro's trust, and he's willing to consider his brother's betrayal and gives Otokawa his card. He can't shake the feeling that Otokawa's involved with the missing girl case and starts to search his home, only to receive an alert about an unidentified body. When he leaves, there's a very disconcerting scene that kinda made my skin crawl. Maybe he just has a pet, right? While all of this is going down, Kakihana's past mistakes are catching up with him. Now, with an engagement ring to his name, he's forced to hide out in his home as loan sharks come pounding at his door. When he inevitably risks leaving to meet Shiho at the docks, he's ambushed and taken hostage. Shirakawa also tries to amend her mistakes with apologies. Now that Dobu has set her free, she goes to Guriki to set the record straight. Guriki, the most forgiving boss on the planet, asks Shirakawa to help him treat Otokawa. Things start to bump in the night on Halloween, as Otokawa is nearly run into by Yano's scooter as he searches for the elusive skull mask shooter. Rui sulks in a nearby lounge with Yamamoto and the other idols. Shiho interrupts them, stating she doesn't want to continue luring men in to get them more money in what they call the Badger games. But Rui berates her, claiming it's the only thing Shiho's good for. Meanwhile, Otokawa meets Dobu at the diner, each struggling to find the skull mask in the crowd. However, they know Kabasawa's nearby because they've heard talk from his fans. Likewise, the Diamond brothers struggle to find trouble in their squad car, as anyone with malicious intent can blend seamlessly into the crowd. We see Koshiro standing up to his older brother for the first time, as Otokawa shook his faith in their familial bond. Back on the streets, Otokawa and Dobu find someone in the skull mask and chase him down, only to discover he's someone cosplaying the shooter. Dobu treats him to an intense and unnecessary beating, something Kabasawa records over the safety of an alley wall. At the docks, in an unmarked warehouse, Yano arranges to meet with Yamamoto before he and his loyal henchman Sekiguchi prepare to get answers out of a tied-up Kakihana. Things start going south in Bless You, as Yano and Sekiguchi discover Kakihana's ruse. Instead of killing him on the spot, they decide to use him as a bargaining chip. Beaten within an inch of his life, Kakihana can't help worrying about Shiho, believing Yano manipulated her into betraying him and promising to rescue her soon. Of course, Yano doesn't let him down easy, revealing her continued role in his gang. Meanwhile, Otokawa and Dobu need to regroup after the Halloween fiasco, now that Kabasawa has uploaded a video of Dobu attacking an innocent civilian. Yamamoto interrupts their meeting, requesting that Otokawa pick him up alongside the members of Mystery Kiss. Dobu advises him to offer Yamamoto the dashcam footage for 1 billion yen. Frustratingly, Otokawa recognizes Shiho when he picks her up, but can't place her face to the dating profile Kakihana matched with. As he drives the pair to the harbor, Yamamoto tells Shiho that her last target was a dud. Yamamoto is shocked by the dashcam's expensive price tag and goes to tell Yano about Otokawa's terms. Meanwhile, Kakihana pleads with Shiho, only for her to say she's disgusted by him. I can't help but feel bad for the guy. He's suffered more than enough, and she didn't need to be so harsh. Otokawa notices Yana's scooter outside the warehouse, but before he can investigate further, he receives a text from Guriki asking him to pick out Kakihana's figure from a crowd. When Otokawa succeeds, the doctor hypothesizes that he has a form of synesthesia and that he may have created an imaginary friend to talk to at home to cope with his stress. For all our sakes, I hope Guriki was right, because I would hate for it to be the alternative. To further test his hypothesis, he meets with Otokawa at Taiko's tavern, having him guess Kakihana from behind and Shirakawa with her eyes covered. However, he can't tell who someone is by their signature. They also notice an autograph by Donraku Shofute on the wall, as he visited the tavern earlier in the day. Yamamoto reveals that someone else wants to buy the dashcam footage for 900 million yen, and is desperately trying to obtain it, as Mystery Kiss fan Imai posted online about winning the lottery. Yano correctly guesses that Dobu's the one who offered the 900 million and wants to rob Imai when he picks up his winnings from the bank. Until then, he has the decency to let Kakihana call his mother for the last time. In the meantime, Kabasawa has succumbed to paranoia after catching Dobu on video, believing one of his followers was a traitor. Using funds provided by his followers, he offers a 1 million yen bounty for the traitor. Meanwhile, fellow public icons, the Homo sapiens, make it into the N1 semifinals, to everyone's surprise. Otokawa kept busy, meeting with Dobu at his apartment to discuss his plans to rob Imai of his lottery winnings. He plans to steal the money from under Yano's nose. He has help from corrupt bankers, Kenshiro, and Otokawa as his getaway driver. The plan seems foolproof, and as Otokawa gets the details, he manages to record Dobu without him noticing. Otokawa later waits to pick up Imai from White Dolphin, where he can warn him of Yano's imminent kidnapping ahead of time and ask him to play along. He also sends his recording to Koshiro and tries to contact the missing Kakihana. Fortunately, Imai's talking about Mystery Kiss jogs his memory, and he realizes Shiho is none other than Kakihana's latest fling. Otokawa is a man on a mission, and he's not going to let anything stand in his way during the next episode, titled The Hero's Melancholy. He's prepared to put his plan into motion, discussing Kenshiro's long-term partnership with Dobu with his little brother Koshiro. Koshiro offers to get the police involved, but Otokawa tells him to hold off, as his plan hinges on bringing down Yano and Dobu in one fell swoop. As he later waits for Dobu to stage his rescue, he sends a message to Kabasawa, letting him know that Dobu will be at the Shibata wharf. Otokawa pokes a sleeping bear as Kabasawa drowns beneath the weight of his newfound fame. He's criticized by one of his female partners after a night of intimacy, as she reminds him of the controversy surrounding his online persona. Her pointed remarks cause him to lash out. It's not a good look, and rightfully, he ends up alone with a slap across the face. Otokawa's email appears to be the turning point in his career. On their drive, Otokawa tells Dobu about Kakihana and Shiho. Dobu refuses to interact with Yano directly, as they're still making money for the same boss. However, their conversation is interrupted by Tanaka driving up on the taxi's side in a van and firing a shot through the window, wounding Dobu in the process. Otokawa narrowly escapes the encounter by making a 180-degree turn, which forces Tanaka to crash into another vehicle. Damn, that was like a scene right out of an action movie. movie. He doesn't give Dobu the chance to recover his gun, instead booking it directly to the wharf. With Yano absent from the warehouse, Dobu distracts Sekiguchi in a one-on-one fight, buying Otokawa time to save Kakihana. Otokawa takes his friend to Guriki's clinic as they reminisce about their childhoods together. At the same time, Dobu has defeated his opponent at the wharf, only to have an unknown attacker shoot him down. Although he expected their skull-masked assailant, he finds Kabasawa, who planned to post a video after defeating Dobu. Instead, Dobu questioned his desires, his narcissistic personality, and what he would get out of life by having an online presence. His speech inspires Kabasawa to get his life together and avoid getting hurt by continuing this heroic act, so he later posts another update announcing the imminent deletion of his social media accounts. In return, Dobu allows him to live. Guriki later goes to Otokawa's home, where the landlord tells him some shocking news. Not only is Otokawa planning to move away from his home to avoid causing her trouble, but his missing parents died in a tragic accident when he was still in grade school, leaving him an orphan placed in her care, with all his needs paid for by an NGO organization. These revelations only shed light on the doctor's ongoing investigation into Otokawa's mysterious illness. Next is We Have No Tomorrow, and with a title as foreboding as that, we know the episode's going to have Otokawa flying by the seat of his pants. We begin the episode with Homo sapiens after they lose the next round of the N1. As Baba leaves for another show, Shibagaki is approached by their longtime listener and critic, Nagashima, who wants to form another group with him when the Homo sapiens inevitably break up. However, Shibagaki's nothing if not loyal, and he refuses to give up on the act he spent years cultivating with Baba. Yano's also having a bad day, as he recalls Dobu's recent attack on his hideout. He also criticizes Imai's post online, stating that he lied about winning the lottery, as he can tell he doctored the original photograph to make it look like a fake. While he might suspect Dobu's behind the ruse, he certainly doesn't consider Otokawa a threat yet. He sends Sekiguchi to find out where Imai lives. Yamamoto is desperate for the mystery kiss footage, and he's practically begging Otokawa on his hands and knees, as the success of the musical group is more than just a dream to him. Otokawa, cleverer than the fox himself, agrees to give Yamamoto the footage if he betrays his fellow gang members and helps him bring them down. Otokawa starts to explain his plan, only to find himself strangled by Yamamoto's belt and forced to relive his tragic childhood memory. Fortunately, girl boss Shirakawa arrives to save him with her combat skills, scaring the life out of the music manager. With Yamamoto scared for his life, Otokawa throws caution to the wind and enlists his help to get the jump on Dobu, while trusting Yamamoto might have consequences later. Leaving him in an abandoned construction site in retaliation is a nice touch. With Shirakawa by his side, Otokawa learns Dobu's true intentions. Otokawa's more than a little agitated that Shirakawa used to be in a relationship with the criminal. As their argument about him continues, Otokawa remembers that someone previously broke into his taxi without taking anything. He finds the tracker Tanaki left behind and brainstorms ways to use the device to his advantage. At this point, he's gone full evil mastermind mode. You know things are about to get serious when in anime time skips. A jump happens here, taking us from the days following Halloween to those leading up to Christmas. In the mid-December chill, Otokawa meets Kuroda at the sauna, who recognizes him as a person of interest in the missing girl case. He inquires about Otokawa's desires, but all Otokawa wants is to pay back those who have helped him. Okay, so he's an evil mastermind with morals. While Yano has located Imai's apartment, Otokawa and Dobu later convene to discuss the bank heist. The bankers will give Yano 10 cases worth of cash, but feeling vulnerable in the open, he'll only check the top case with real bills, leaving the remaining 9 to have mixed counterfeits. The real remaining money will be left behind for Dobu to pick up directly after. Dobu also plans to use Kenshiro to hold up Yano's car so that he can steal it and the remaining money in the counterfeit cases. He dubs the plan Odd Taxi, which means it's likely super relevant to the show. Otokawa's only condition is that Dobu take care of their skull-masked assailant. Dobu agrees before asking about the girl in the dashcam footage, because everyone is dying to know, and Otokawa states that it's not the missing girl, but it is the only one who matches her description. He recognizes her as Yuki Mitsuyas. Mitsuya. Super not helpful, right? He's had one too many sleepless nights. Orokawa then goes to warn Imai of his kidnapping that will happen the next day, reminding him to play along with Yano's demands so the police can rescue him later. While he's set up his trap, Guriki went driving into his past, visiting Orokawa's former principal to ask about the accident that took his parents. Then, as Orokawa returns home, he catches a news broadcast where they identify the body previously found in the bay. The same Mitsuya we've seen alive and well numerous times. Either something's amiss with the coroner's report, or someone's pulled a fast one. The following episode, If We Could Go Back to the Day, is set apart from the rest because it opens with a narration from Rui. She reminisces about her first audition for Mystery Kiss, when she felt all she had was to flaunt her looks, while her competitor, Yuki Mitsuya, had it all. Despite her doubts, Rui still managed to book the part and still get the center position, forming her idol group alongside Mitsuya and Shiho. Although they all came from different upbringings, they worked hard to make Mystery Kiss a reality, which is why her life turned upside down when a music producer suggested they make Mitsuya the lead singer instead. With her chance at stardom threatened, Rui arranged for a taxi to pick up Mitsuya and bring her to the agency for a private meeting, where she planned to threaten Mitsuya into giving back the lead position. She knew she might do anything for the role, even murder her fellow singer. But when she arrived at the scene, she found Mitsuya already there, dead in a chair. Okay, now we've gone from action movie directly to horror movie. When Yamamoto arrived, she told him everything, and he called Yano to help him cover up the death and dispose of the body. They take Mitsuya to the wharf, where they hack her into pieces and throw her into the sea, which is what we saw back in the first episode. In return, Yano receives the control of the musical group and half of their proceeds. Although they plan to have Mitsuya's family file a missing persons report, they cover up the murder from the general public by bringing in a body double, or replacement, to take Mitsuya's place in the group. The replacement is Sakura Wadagaki, the newest member of the group. To pull off their ruse, Wadagaki and Shiho had to wear masks from then on, and Wadagaki pretended to be Mitsuya due to their similar appearances. Shihu went along with the stunt, believing Mitsuya had gone missing. As it turns out, Wadagaki had almost made it into Mystery Kiss to begin with, placing fourth in the initial tryouts. To tie up loose ends, Yano blackmails Mitsuya's father, using his history with criminal organizations to make him withdraw the missing persons report. Yamamoto later tells him that Mitsuya ran away from home, not wanting her father's associations to interfere with her dreams. After that, all seemed well, aside from Orokawa's dashcam footage, until they dragged her body out of the water and placed her remains. Naturally, the media is in an uproar, and Mystery Kiss has to give a press conference to save its image. To save his group, Yamamoto bails on Orokawa, leaving Imai to deal with Yano and the counterfeit money transfer alone. There's also the risk that Yano will move his hideout, which would change their route for the bank robbery. With his plan relying on many intricate details, it's starting to look like Orokawa's dream of ending a criminal organization in one fell swoop will remain a fantasy. At the press conference, Rui refuses to let the dark truth be the end of her career, but Baba plans to end Homo sapiens once they perform in the loser bracket. As the world falls apart around others, Guriki takes a scenic moment at the library. He finds a clip in the newspaper where he learns about the death of Orokawa's parents. It seems as if this man cannot catch a break. For a taxi-driving walrus, his recurring fear of water makes complete sense to me now. Back at the press conference, Yamamoto apologizes for Mystery Kiss's deception, but claims Mitsuyas death came as a surprise, before outing Donraku Shofute as her father. Damn. Kenshiro meets up with Orokawa to review the new plan to stop Yano, while Dobu waits nearby the bank. As they're about to spring their attack, Goriki meets with Orokawa's childhood doctor, who reveals Orokawa lost his memory after the accident and had a memory journal to help him in the weeks that followed. With a break in his investigation, Goriki begs to get his hands on that journal. As the next episode, Not Enough, begins, bankers load the cases of counterfeit bills into Yano's van. Dabu's plan goes down without a hitch, with the top case getting checked for real bills in fear of being caught in broad daylight. As they peel away from the bank, Imai's still in the back seat. They're pursued by Kenshiro, who pulls them over to examine their vehicle. Dobu takes off with the real money and meets up with Orokawa, who plants Tanaka's tracker in Dobu's van. We cut to the police station, where two two officers gossip about Koshido, stating he quit his job to cover up losing his gun, or possibly misfiring it. Waiting in the hall is Don Shofute, who plans to meet with Kuroda over the phone so that he can take his mind off of the loss of his daughter. Things are going surprisingly well for Homo sapiens as they perform for the N1's loser bracket, but Shibagaki cracks, airing out his grievances live on stage. We went from a comedy show to a drama in 10 seconds flat. Kenshido finds the counterfeit money in the back of Yano's van and detains them in the back of the police car. After Imai is set free, Dobu takes Yano's van, recovering the remainder of the lottery winnings. When he circles back to meet up with Otokawa and recover the rest of the money from his van, he finds none other than Tanaka waiting for him. Dobu isn't worried. He believes Tanaka had used the 6 bullets left in the chamber during his previous stunts and goads their masked assailant into telling them what he wants. On the brink of insanity, Tanaka insists he needs an apology from Otokawa for making him break his phone, and Otokawa, aware his life may be on the line, exits his taxi to comply, only for the eraser of Don Shofute to fall out of his pocket. Tanaka can't believe his eyes. How could the eraser that had put his life into such a tailspin end up there? As it turns out, Shirakawa received the eraser from Dobu, the original Ditch 11, who had conned Tanaka over a decade previously and was the same Ditch 11 he had recently contacted on Zuden. Tanaka finally snaps, shooting Dobu in the gut before running away from the scene while screaming in horror. Dobu begs Otokawa to take him to his gang's underground doctor, but Otokawa refuses, taking the van's keys instead. He determines that an ambulance should already be on the way after a gunshot went off in a public area. He places the van keys under the van before calling Imai, giving him the location to pick up his liberated lottery winnings. With the plan finished, Otokawa's nearly ready to celebrate his victory until Yano and Sekiguchi arrive in Kenshido's stolen police car, leading to Otokawa fleeing for his life in a high-speed chase. Koshido finds his brother on the side of the road, beaten and barely conscious. However, he still requests Kenshido's help in arresting Yano and his associates, and Kenshido tearfully agrees, despite knowing it will ultimately lead to his arrest too. Everything comes to a head in the final episode. Where to? We take a break from the gunfire, subterfuge, and high-speed chases to return to Goriki's investigation. He managed to obtain Otokawa's childhood journal, gaining first-hand accounts of his friend's childhood and the traumatic events that ultimately warped his perceptions for most of his life. He learns that Otokawa's childhood festered with bullying at school, abuse at home, and abandonment at the zoo, causing him to become closer to animals than to other humans. Yes, you heard me right, humans. His mother took out her frustrations about his absent father on him, and when his father was home, he gave him gifts to keep him quiet about the affair that he was having. In the present, the car chase continues, with the Daimon brothers joining the fray in another police cruiser. Yano and Sekiguchi become more violent, ramming into the taxi until they enter a closed road onto an unfinished bridge. Although the others stop short, Otokawa doesn't have enough time to save himself, and he flies off the end towards the water beyond. We're left with bated breath as we return to the numerous stories that have intertwined with Otokawa's. The Homo sapiens lost the loser bracket, and despite his outburst on stage, Shibagaki begs Baba to keep their duo together. Shirakawa hears about the car chase on the news and calls Goriki, and they plan to help Otokawa at the harbor. Along the way, Goriki explains that Otokawa experienced visual agnosia, meaning he can't tell what he's looking at due to brain damage. Rui considers telling the truth to the public, despite Yamamoto's advice. Shiho remembers the ridicule she and her family faced due to poverty. And Wadagaki thinks back to her mother, telling her to do whatever it takes to make her dreams come true. Kakihana considers the game he endured while dating Shiho. Tanaka contemplates taking his own life atop a bridge, and Kabasawa scrolls through his new social media account. At the same time, they each witness Otokawa's taxi fly through the air, with Imai's lottery winnings flying in the wind before toppling into the water. The sight makes each of them relive a moment from their lives, a turning point, which encourages them to act out or change. Although some of these moments may seem simple to us, when combined in a single frame, they are incredibly moving. Then, we hear the rest of Otokawa's journal, as it recounts the days of his parents' death. One day, his mother, who seemed particularly sad, took him and his father for a late-night drive. His father, unconscious due to a heavy alcohol-induced sleep, remained unaware of his wife headed toward the water. Orokawa, aware of either his mother's plans or mental state, recounted how pretty the world looked at night. The next thing he knew, he woke up in a hospital bed, where the people that once intimidated him, like doctors, nurses, and even family members, had become animals. He's later moved to Tokyo, as an organization plans to care for and provide for him. Before the modern Orokawa can drown like his late parents, Shirakawa dives into the water to break his taxi window, pulling him to safety. Miraculously, when Orokawa wakes up in the ambulance, he finds two very human-looking people watching over him. He says people don't scare him anymore. Such a beautiful moment brings a tear to this old man's eyes. Dobu also receives a visitor in the hospital. Basking in the success of a great source of evil, Koshiro admits he's the one who shot Dobu at the harbor. He adds to Dobu's misery by confirming his imminent arrest by another officer. But he's not alone. Kenshiro will also face imprisonment, something his little brothers made peace with. Rui is arrested for the murder of Mitsuya, while Yamamoto, Yano, and other accomplices are charged with hiding the body and assisting with the crime. Imai arrives to visit Orokawa in the hospital, giving him all the money that was in the taxi. Orokawa accepts the money, if only to repay Kuroda for helping him throughout his childhood. When he goes to meet Kuroda at the sauna, he learns that the man regrets recent events and plans to retire from criminal activities, as his recent subordinates had broken his lone rule: don't kill other people. Orokawa then returns home to figure out what was living in his closet, and it turns out to be a regular cat. Thank goodness I was wrong about that one. Orokawa's relieved too. At least we weren't the only ones that had him at the center of the missing girl's murder board. To be fair, he seemed like he suspected himself too. As far as the other endings go, the Homo sapiens continue to perform together. Tanaka returns to work and uninstalls Zuden. No, I can't believe he still has his job either. He's been roaming around the streets for months at this point. At least Dobu's paying for his crimes, living out his sentence behind bars, while others, like Kakihana and Shirakawa, work honest jobs to repent for their past mistakes. In the final scene, Wadagaki calls her mother about moving to another agency after the sudden end of Mystery Kiss. She thinks back on the night when everything changed, October 4th, when she murdered Yuki Mitsuya to take her place in the group before she searches for the taxi she rode in that night. When she finds it, she hops inside, and Orokawa asks where she would like to go. Yeah, I can't believe it either. We've gone through 13 episodes and the killer still went undetected, right under our noses. And with that, Odd Taxi comes to a decisive close, leaving us with a certain sense of dread as our beloved protagonist finds himself, yet again, locked in a confined space with another person prepared to kill. Is there something in the air, or does Orokawa just have the worst luck in Tokyo? Anyway, what do you think about the series? Did you follow the clues and foreshadowing to guess the big twist at the end? Did you believe Orokawa was the one responsible for the missing girl's death? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Alright then, have a good day, and as usual, thanks for watching.